Hello everyone. Today we are going to present the comparison story between Petronella and Barbie and the Three Musketeers. But before we get started, I would like to introduce our group members. My name is Pornpan Bunam, following with Miss Viwantani Jirawardade and Miss Supachaya Watanakanik. This presentation, we divided the contents into 4 parts, which are important characteristics of genre, elements of stories, meaningful messages to the present audience, and the conclusion. Let's begin with the important characteristic of genre. Well, both stories share the same genre, which is the fantasy. But what is the fantasy? To make it clear, fantasy is a genre of fiction that concentrates on imaginary elements. This can mean magic, the supernatural, alternate worlds, superheroes, monsters, fairies, magical creatures, mythological heroes, essentially anything that an author can imagine outside of reality. With fantasy, the magical or supernatural elements serve as the foundation of the plot, setting, characterization, or the storyline in general. Nowadays, fantasy is popular across a huge range of media: film, television, comic books, games, art, and literature. But it is predominant and most influential place has always been in literature. Now, we are talking about the elements of both stories. Before talking about the plots, let me introduce the characters in each story first. The first story is Petronella. There are 3 main characters, which are Petronella, Prince Ferdinand, and Albion. In detail, Petronella is different from other traditional fairy tale princes because she breaks all the stereotypes of them. She is a tough girl and her appearance is so strong. Next, Prince Ferdinand. As well as Petronella, he is not an ordinary prince because he is the idle one, a freeloader who only cares about enjoying himself. Now, one of the most important characters, the enchanter, or you can call him Albion. At first, we all knew him as a villain in the story, but actually, he is an uncommon villain. He turns out to be a good one, and he truly falls in love with Petronella. Alright, let's briefly talk about the plot of Petronella. In a fairy tale kingdom, the king and the queen always have a son named Peter, who grows up and ventures forth to rescue a princess from the forces of evil, making her the new queen. However, this cycle is broken one year when the stroke delivers a baby girl, Petronella. What comes after this is Petronella was overly protected by her family because she is a girl. But she decided to go out and find a prince like her prince siblings that go out to seek for their fortunes. Fortunately, she has done 3 dangerous tasks that she asks the enchanter, like wash the house, the cities, and the hawks. Now, it's time for her to do what she's aiming to in the first place. She helped the prince, riding his horse for escaping the enchanter. However, she had to fight with the enchanter using the objects that she got from the task, which are a mirror, a ring, and a comb. Surprisingly, at the end, the enchanter confessed to Petronella that he followed her, not the prince, because he is falling in love with her bravely, not only her beauty. And finally, Petronella accomplished her intention just like her siblings, that she found her own lover, which is the enchanter, by all the acts she had done.
Now it's time for the second story, Barbie and the Three Musketeers. There are a lot of interesting characters, so let's begin with the protagonist, Corinne. She is a country girl from Gascony. She is a hot-headed, confident, and determined. She aspires to become a musketeer like her father. Next, Viveka. She is a stylish and witty fashionista. She tends to use French in her speech. Next, Renee. She is a practical, well-headed, and skilled fighter, and slightly unfriendly violinist. Next, Aramina. She is an idealistic dancer. She nurses a clutch on Prince Louis, but she is delighted when Louis and Corinne fall in love. Next, Helen. She is an elderly maid who trains Colleen, Viveka, Aramina, and Renee to become musketeers. Next, Monsieur Treville. He is a head of musketeer and a good friend of Colin's father. He is a brave and strong musketeer. Next, Louis. He is a prince who will become the king in the future. He loves the thoughts of flying and inventions. And later, he falls in love with Corinne. And the last one, Philip. He is the main antagonist. He plans to kill his own cousin, Louis, and to make himself a king. Alright, I think we should dig into the plot now. Beginning with expository, Corinne practiced to be a musketeer in a farm and leave her hometown to go to Paris. What happened is that Corinne was denied to be a musketeer, so she became a maid in a castle. And the story is going on. Louis, the prince, was regicide from the Philip's plan. At the same time, Corinne, Viveka, Aramina, and Renee were practiced by Helen. And there is a scene that Corinne helped Louis from the balloon. Now the fun part begins. Corinne, Viveka, Aramina, and Renee accidentally saw a regicide plan. They told the truth to Monsieur Treville, but he did not believe it. So they disguised themselves in order to protect Louis in accession to the throne. And that's what the protagonist does. Corinne skirmishes with Philip to protect Louis. Guess what? Corinne, Viveka, Aramina, and Renee were appointed to be the musketeer. And at the end of the story, they went out to Paris for a mission. Now, from what you have heard, the theme of these two stories are quite clear. For Petronella, it is to seek fortunes. Also, it presents the theme of female power. And for Barbie and the Three Musketeers, it is to follow the dream. But the interesting thing is the point of view of both stories. For Petronella, it is a third-person narrative writing style with limited knowledge perspective, in which the narrator is outside the plot, observing the action and the characters. Therefore, readers will not know what the characters think until they say or explain it by themselves. to compare with Barbie and the Three Musketeers. It is an objective point of view or dramatic point of view, which simply presents characters' actions and dialogues to the reader. Also, the narrator doesn't explicitly tell the reader what a character thinks or feels.
Next, I would like to talk about the similarities and differences of both stories. It could be said that the protagonist from each story is super brave. Let's start with the inequality issue between men and women. In Petronella, her family believed that a woman, a typical princess, should wait for the prince to come and get married. And her brothers told her to be good and stay home. But she is so masculine. She was like, I don't care. Then she goes seek her fortune just like her brothers. Also, in Barbie and the Three Musketeers, women are insulted by men. However, Corinne and her friends can prove themselves that the things that men can do, women can also do as well. Next, the magic elements. In Petronella, there are 3 things: a mirror, a ring, and a comb. And in Barbie and the Three Musketeers, animals can speak, like a cat is a musketeer. Last but not least, the given task. Both of the stories had given the task to rescue the prince for the mission. Right now, I think we have to clarify more about the magic elements in brief. For Petronella, a mirror, a ring, and a comb are the evidences of Petronella's strength, elegance, and witness. For Barbie and the Three Musketeers, the symbols in the story symbolize the ability of each character. A sword equals a brave, straightforward as Corinne. A sling equals a practical, well-headed, and skilled fighter and slightly unfriendly violinist at Renee. A pair of ribbons equals a stylish and witty fashionista as Viveka. And a pair of fans equals an idealistic dancer as Aramina. However, both stories also shared the different things. The first one, in Petronella, the enchanter did not underestimate Petronella, and he was giving her 3 tasks without asking whether she can do or not. But in Barbie and the Three Musketeers, Prince Louis insults Corinne that she cannot be a musketeer as a man. Next, Petronella's family did not encourage her to seek her own fortune. They think that a princess should wait for a prince. But Corinne's mother and father encouraged her to follow her dream, even though no one believed in her. The last thing is that, from the point of view of Petronella, readers will not know what the characters think until they say or express it by themselves. The story made readers think that Petronella will end up with the prince, but actually she ended up with the enchanter. In contrast, Corinne did not end up with the prince or anyone. Just like the theme, follow the dream. At the end of the story, she preferred the Musketeers' mission more than the prince. Alright, let's see what meaningful messages these stories gave us. From Petronella's, even if you are a woman, you can do everything. You don't have to be afraid of what people say to you, and all you have to do is to stick with your intention to do what you want and pursue that. From Barbie and the Three Musketeers, it gives an importance to follow our dreams, and no one is good from the beginning. Also, it teaches us that trying, practicing, and believing in oneself would cause worthy consequences indeed. More importantly, both stories presented women's rights, female power, and gender equality issues. They show that women are brave enough to do everything by themselves. and do not have to conform to society's expectations by marrying a prince, which it could be said that not every woman's dreams are to get married. Alright, we have come to the end, so I am going to wrap up a little bit. The story of Barbie and the Three Musketeers gives an importance to follow the dream. Even if someone tries to stop or look down on you, you should never give up on your dreams. Apart from this, it teaches us that we are not that good from the beginning. Trying, practicing, and believing in oneself would cause the worthy consequences indeed. Also, Petronella showed that even if you are a woman, you can do everything. You don't have to be afraid of what people say to you, because all you have to do is to stick with your intention to do what you want and pursue that. Another thing is that Petronella and Barbie presented women's rights, female power, and gender equality issues. Both stories show that women are brave enough to do everything by themselves. Also, both Petronella and Corinne don't have to conform to society's expectations by marrying a prince, which it could be said that not every woman's dream is to get married. Like a woman can be happy with the way she chooses to be.